There is a presence that cannot be explained, but it is felt the moment she enters a room. It is not a spectacular beauty or a calculated attitude. It is a quiet strength, an inner light that does not beg to be looked at, but rather attracts as if it were self-evident. This kind of woman does not seek to seduce, and yet she becomes unforgettable. She does not need a throne to be recognized as a queen. Her very manner of existence commands respect. Men do not become attached to her out of habit, but out of fascination. She is not the one chasing love. Love is the one seeking her. What you are about to discover is not a technique. It is a truth that few dare to speak aloud. True power of attraction begins when you no longer need to be chosen to feel whole. There is a strength in the silence of a woman fully anchored within herself that cannot be ignored. It is not a cold silence or a facade constructed for protection. It is an inner peace, a profound stability that shakes the certainties of those who encounter her. When she enters a room, she does not try to please. She does not seek to be seen. She is simply there, solid, present, sovereign. And this presence has more impact than 1,000 speeches. Men sense this energy before they even understand it. She doesn't need to prove her worth because she already carries it within her. It's not a game of charm, nor a strategy learned from seduction books. It's a state of being. She knows her worth is non-negotiable, that it doesn't depend on a man's approval or the world's gaze. It's this silent truth that makes her dangerously seductive. Because true power isn't shown, it's felt. There comes a precise moment when a man realizes he cannot possess her, not because she closes herself off, but because she is self-sufficient. She is not afraid of solitude. She does not need to be promised the world to feel complete. She is her own world. And this emotional autonomy awakens something deeply instinctive in the other, the fear of losing her. Because anything that is rare cannot be replaced. In a world where so many seek to fill voids by clinging to love, this woman chooses to be whole before loving. She doesn't expect a man to give her an identity. She has already built her own. She doesn't crave attention. She naturally attracts that of those who perceive the power of a being who needs no one to shine. It is this silent certainty that creates the strongest magnetism, the one we cannot control. And when a man finds himself facing this energy, his entire inner pattern stirs. He understands that he is not facing a demand, but a presence. Not a dependency, but a freedom. It is no longer a simple emotional connection. It is an inner, almost spiritual experience. It does not seek to be chosen because it has already chosen itself. And that is precisely what makes it unforgettable. When a man crosses paths with a woman who fully embodies his inner freedom, something subtle but powerful is triggered within him. A deep tension arises between two contradictory forces that have always coexisted in his nature: the need for security and the irresistible call of vitality. On the one hand, there is this desire for stability, for predictable gentleness, for a love that reassures. On the other, there is this silent thirst to feel alive, to burn with fascination before someone he cannot fully grasp. Many women, often without realizing it, choose to represent security. They become the safe harbor where a man finds refuge. They rearrange their schedule, soothe every imbalance, and smooth every rough edge to fit seamlessly into his life. At first, this reassures him. It gives him that pleasant feeling of control and peace. But over time, this same comfort becomes a routine that lulls the soul to sleep. What began as a shelter becomes a cage. Then comes the one he cannot confine himself to. She does not seek to mold herself according to his expectations. She does not dissolve into his habits. She moves in her own direction, with a light that does not need validation. She does not ask to be a port, because she is the ocean. She does not wait, she builds. And without even uttering a word, she awakens in him that ancestral part that desires mystery and self-transcendence. It is not chaos that she brings. It is raw, vibrant, untamed life. At that precise moment, something cracks inside him. What was predictable suddenly loses its luster. What was stable seems less alive. His rational mind whispers to him to stay in the comfort he knows, but his instincts awaken like a flame he thought was extinguished. The attraction she triggers isn't based on words or artifice, but on the simple truth that she doesn't belong to him. She isn't an obvious choice. She's an enigma. This inner conflict creates a powerful phenomenon: admiration. For a man does not rise up against what he controls. He rises up against what challenges him. And this woman, without even trying to provoke him, becomes the mirror that reminds him that he is made for more than routine. She is not a comfortable presence. She is a presence that gently disturbs, that shakes his certainties, that forces him to confront himself. And it is precisely in this tension between comfort and fascination that the desire most difficult to erase is born. A woman's strength is not measured in her words, but in how she inhabits her life. What deeply captivates is not a distant facade or a carefully played role to arouse interest. It is the silent choices, the daily gestures, the firm and subtle attitudes that demonstrate a deep respect for herself. Where many seek to please, she chooses to remain aligned with her truth. And this inner fidelity becomes a magnetic presence. She doesn't rearrange an entire universe for uncertain attention. She doesn't sacrifice her plans on the altar of a vague promise. When someone cancels a date at the last minute, she may feel the disappointment. But she doesn't let it govern her worth. She doesn't beg for the space taken away from her. She moves on because her life isn't dependent on anyone's goodwill. This simple, seemingly innocuous act changes the entire dynamic. For it sends a silent message. My presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. She isn't glued to her phone, waiting for every response as proof of her existence. She responds when she chooses, because she has things to experience beyond that expectation. She doesn't withdraw to avoid disagreement. She speaks with sincerity, even when her words aren't comfortable to hear. She doesn't fear conflict, because she knows her inner peace doesn't depend on the other person's approval. These small gestures aren't weapons, but foundations. Her attitude isn't meant to hurt. She has nothing to prove, nothing to defend, nothing to conquer. She doesn't need to appear strong. She is. She knows how to set boundaries with disarming gentleness. She can smile while saying no. She can love deeply without ever forgetting herself. And this rare blend of calm and firmness creates an invisible tension, the one felt by someone who realizes they have no control over this equation. Faced with her, a man quickly understands that this is no ordinary relationship. He is no longer faced with an expectation, but with a silent demand, that of earning his place. Not by playing a role, but by raising his own energy to match hers. She doesn't need manipulation to create desire. Her self-respect is enough to redraw the rules of the game. She embodies a truth that is not negotiable, and that is precisely what makes her a presence impossible to trivialize. Love may make the heart race, but admiration is what keeps it there. It's not constant attention that anchors a presence in a man's mind, it's the value he perceives in her. He may love a woman who is gentle, available, always present, but the one who deeply imprints herself on his memory is the one he admires. Because admiration is a silent force, more powerful than mere attraction. It doesn't impose itself. It imprints itself. Admiration is born when a woman's presence isn't offered as a given, but experienced as a chance. She doesn't revolve around him like a planet around its sun. She shines with her own light. She doesn't try to bend to be loved. She remains faithful to her inner structure. She can be tender without ever losing her strength, open without ever diluting. And this inner stability acts like a brutal mirror. It reminds him that he must rise to deserve to remain by her side. A man may smile at a woman who laughs at all his jokes, but he respects one who dares to contradict him with conviction. He may appreciate a woman who gives him everything easily, but he desires one who demands true presence from him. He may be attached to a comfortable relationship, but he cannot detach himself from one who makes him feel she could live without him, but chooses to stay. This free choice is what makes a relationship powerful. It is not an addiction. It is a conscious alliance. Admiration transforms the dynamic. It is no longer based on the fear of loss, but on the desire to rise to the occasion. It does not create a bond based on weakness, but on the recognition of the other's worth. A woman who belongs to herself inspires because she doesn't beg for love, she elevates it. She doesn't seek validation, she offers direction. And it is precisely this posture that triggers in him an instinctive motivation to rise, not to control her, but to be worthy of her presence. Comfort lulls. Admiration awakens. It pushes one to become more lucid, more attentive, more present. It doesn't create dependency, it leaves a lasting impression. Because deep down, a man never forgets a woman who has shown him what it truly means to respect someone, not through words, but through the unwavering way she respects herself. It's this impression that doesn't fade, even when time passes, even when life changes course, because admiration, on the other hand, remains engraved. This power doesn't fall from the sky. It doesn't depend on luck or a golden past. It is built, stone by stone, in the silence of daily choices. A woman who becomes magnetic doesn't play a role. She builds an inner kingdom that nothing can take away from her. This kingdom has no visible walls, but it does have solid foundations, a mission, independence, inner peace, and unshakable personal laws. This is not an idealized image, it is a real process. The first stone is a mission, a direction that transcends any emotional connection. When a woman knows why she gets up in the morning, when she fuels an inner fire greater than her fears, she naturally becomes radiant. She is not defined by the love given or taken away. She follows a path that is her own. This clarity creates an aura. A man senses it even before she speaks, because a person guided by a vision exudes an intensity that nothing and no one can buy. The second stone is independence, not the kind that rejects, but the kind that liberates. Emotional, financial, and social independence. She knows that her balance isn't a gift someone else must give her. She builds it herself. This autonomy doesn't make her distant, it makes her stable. She becomes a woman who is reached, not completed. And in a world where so many seek a savior, this position is rare, and therefore powerful. The third stone is tamed solitude, not a solitude endured, but one chosen, honored. She knows that silence is not a threat. It is there that she meets herself, that she recenters herself, that she listens to the deep beats of her own existence. She does not flee these moments, she cherishes them, for it is there that her inner kingdom is strengthened. The final stone is the laws carved in her own stone. Principles that are not negotiable, not vague wishes, but clear rules that determine who can enter her world and how. She doesn't need to explain or justify them. She lives them. And it is this consistency that inspires respect and eliminates anything incapable of giving it. Thus is formed a kingdom that no absence can collapse. An inner space so alive that it attracts without forcing. An energy that has no need to seduce, because it already reigns. A woman who builds this kingdom becomes a presence that cannot be replaced, because she belongs to no one. But she can choose to open her doors to the one who will walk beside her, not to save her, to reign with her. True seduction has never been about games or strategies. It is born at the precise moment when a woman rises, lays her foundations, and makes her life a sovereign work. This power does not shout, it radiates, and those who perceive it instinctively know that they are facing something rare. If you have recognized in these words a force that lies dormant within you, then do not reduce it any longer to be accepted. Elevate it, affirm it, make it your kingdom. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to share it with other women who have forgotten their inner power. Subscribe, comment on how you feel, and together let's build a space where a woman's worth doesn't depend on an outsider's view, but on the light she carries within. Because true seduction is being fully yourself, without permission.